Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Finovate podcast. Today we are chatting with Ned Phillips and Mike Larsen of Bambu, a best of show winner on stage at Finovate Fall here. Ned, Mike, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem, Greg. Good to be on your show. Good to hear your voice again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. So obviously, we've had a couple of these episodes now. People should at this point know that all of the videos from Finovate Fall are available at finovate.com. You should check out what Bambu showed up on stage there. But for people who haven't seen the video yet, I'd like to start by just giving them a quick overview of what Bambu is all about.
Yeah, so thanks, Greg. We are a B2B wealth tech. So what does that mean? We design, build, and deploy those robo-advisors or saving investment apps for financial institutions. So if a financial institution wants its own betterment or its own wealth front, they come to us for the tech and we build it. And on Finovate, we built one on stage in 7 minutes.
Yeah, it was really fun to see. And it was amazing how quickly you were able to do it. So let's talk a little bit about the background here, because your background is fascinating, particularly your background with Finovate. I think your first time on stage was in Hong Kong in 2016. You've also been on stage in Africa and Europe, and one best of show now at Finovate Fall. You've taken home trophies on 3 different continents, which is pretty impressive. How has Bambu evolved over that time?
Yeah, look, thank you for that shout out. We appreciate it. And I think, we've always focused pretty hard on Finovate. We know you guys are, well, I was going to say pretty legit, but you're definitely legit. You've been around 10 years and more. So we know it's good to be there. But, look, we're 5.5 years old. And when we started, always the same thing, B2B wealth tech. And I think when we first presented in Finovate, we're based out of Singapore, so obviously tried to win it in Asia. And I'll never forget, I think it was you, Greg, who had to gently but repeatedly remind me that it wasn't a PowerPoint, it was a live demo. And I kept saying, oh, you mean a different kind of PowerPoint? For some reason, I couldn't get it through my brain. And I think at the end, you were like, Ned, it's a live demo, very slowly and clearly, so I could understand. I was like, oh, crap, let's go. My sales guy then, I said to Nick, we're going to go on stage and just do a pitch like we do to a client. We're going to show it. And I think we were on last and it worked quite well. I think because maybe it was quite natural. We were lucky to win that. And then, so we've grown up. We started by, we had 1 or 2 clients back then, maybe 20 people serving a small number of savers and investors. Today, we're serving clients in 18 countries, over 20 financial institutions, over 500,000 end investors. So it's grown a lot. And yeah, Mike, how was it? Me and Mike did that demo. Mike joined us a year ago. And Mike, how do you see it from your perspective? I mean, I see it from the whole way through, but from your just over first year at Bambu in America.
Oh, it was really exciting being on stage at Finovate and just amazing to take home one of the trophies. Like they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. So it's just absolutely fantastic. And I like to joke one day too, when we have a large office in New York with a whole team of sales reps, marketers, and customer success people, that will have a whole shelf filled with nice sparkling glass trophies.
Good to have that ambition. Yeah, for sure. No, it's been great. And as I said, people should definitely watch the video up there on finovate.com, because it is a really interesting demo. Obviously, the fact that you're able to build it in 7 minutes was really cool. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, if you look at your customer list, you've got some really big companies and really large financial institutions among your customers. The demo this time, we kind of focused on smaller financial institutions. Now, I don't necessarily want to take this to a doom and gloom place, but what's the reality facing those smaller FIs right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's doom and gloom if they don't do some tech. It doesn't have to be all Bambu tech, but I heard someone had a phrase. It's not that it's a zero-sum game. So let's say you're an advisor. It's not that you're out of business. You're only out of business if you do no tech. Maybe you do 10%, 20%, but get on the path. It's doom and gloom if you just shut the door or shut your mind to tech. And I think it's great to see, and we saw it for Finovate, advisors, smaller FIs coming there and, understanding, look, they're a bit lost. They're not sure what to do. But if they're turning up to Finovate, they're miles ahead of some of their competitors who not. And I think it's what we're trying to do in the demo, to be able to show. And Mike played the part perfectly. Or maybe Mike, you can explain how we showed to advisors that it's not the end of the world if with tech, it's actually a huge benefit for them.
Yeah, I personally really enjoy sometimes selling to the smaller businesses because the people I talk to are really emotionally and personally invested in their firm. So when you show them these products and you say, you can increase your assets under management by X, or you can have happy customers that are then in turn recommending their children and family members to invest with you, it resonates on a more deeper level when you talk to the smaller businesses, right? Because they have that, again, personal and emotional investment in their firm too. Whereas, sometimes when you're talking to an enterprise firm that wants their own betterment, while for an Acorns, you're, talking to someone who's been at the company for a few years and they're coming in, they're putting their hours in, and they don't have that same, emotional investment that sometimes the small business owners have.
Yeah, it's that question of kind of personal commitment to it, right? I think a lot of the small banks do have this mentality where they kind of, the executives sort of live and breathe their organization in a way that is not always the case at some of the larger firms. Now, I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush here, because certainly there are people who are driving change and feel very personally responsible for what their organizations are doing at larger FIs. But with community banks, you see those people who have to wear a number of different hats in the organization. They take, again, real personal ownership of how the bank does. And I would imagine that makes the conversation really different. I think my next question is, why robo-advisors in particular? What about that technology in particular makes it so important for financial institutions of all sizes?
Oh, well, our very first, I know, Greg, you've been on our podcast, so I know we have a podcast, but our very first podcast that we did, the title was Wealth Tech Sucks. And what we weren't trying to say Bambu Tech sucks, but what we were trying to say is that for the majority of people in wealth, whether it's a bank, an FI, an asset manager, or a small advisor, there hasn't been a lot of great wealth solutions. And indeed, customers haven't had a great digital experience. It's been quite offline, human-driven, not so scalable, not so easy, and not a delightful customer experience. And I think we're in the wealth space, we're in robo-advisory, and I think it's just a massive opportunity. I'm 54, I've been selling tech and financial services for 30 years, and I've never seen such an opportunity. And so when you say why this, it is because I think it's been a really underserved, underappreciated area. Is that people with enough money had a financial advisor, but it was pretty manual. Now that's getting digitized. And the people who were just starting to invest, who had $100, before they had no options because an advisor wouldn't talk to them because they had $100, now they can go digital. So really across the whole spectrum, there is huge advances that need to be made. I'm super glad I'm not trying to take on Netflix or Spotify or Facebook. They've got some pretty slick tech. In wealth, the tech is not slick yet. And I think we're just at the beginning of making it incredibly slick. And that's why I feel super lucky that we're in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the question too is, you obviously you can see how end users benefit by being able to understand how their financial decisions will impact their financial futures. How do the banks in particular benefit from being able to bring this technology into their own stacks?
Mike, I'll throw that to you because in reality, Bambu is really targeting people who are earlier on in their investing kind of life cycle. So maybe, Mike, it might be unfortunately, time has not been kinder to me, so I'm at the other end of that. But Mike, you still have plenty of years to be a great investor. So man, why don't you answer that one?
So I'll build upon a bit of what Ned was talking about the last question too, right? We're finding that there's a bit of an advice gap happening in the world of wealth management, wealth advice, right? The people who have lots of money, they often get the best advice, and their money is managed the best for them, right? And oftentimes there's asset minimums, right, where you have to have at least 200 grand to meet with an advisor. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who are just starting to save and invest for their futures don't get any advice whatsoever. They weren't taught how to balance a personal budget in college, right? So I think the robos are a great way to kind of help those people save and invest for their future, right? Like I, for example, used Acorns when I was fresh out of college, and I knew I needed to save an emergency account, right? And the way this all ties into the banks being able to build success, right, is via economies of scale, right? You could manage one person who has $200,000 to invest, or digitally, right? You could have thousands of people coming in that are all investing a couple $100 or a couple grand, right? And I like to joke that Acorns, the average assets per investor is only something like $400 or $500, but they recently just I believe they went public via SPAC for something like $2.2 billion, right? So even though their average investor only is a few $100s with their platform, they've found wild amounts of success, right, via economies of scale.
So no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And thinking about the way you talk about it like that, it's easy to see how this is an attractive solution for smaller financial institutions who are looking to make sure that they stay relevant, that they're able to keep customers not just engaged, but engaged with their particular brand. And so it's easy to see why this is something which a lot of smaller FIs would be pretty interested in. I'd like to take a step back, though, because I know you've worked, as I mentioned earlier, with some very large companies, too. What would you say are the biggest differences you've had in how you present the product or even the product itself as you've sort of shifted from some of those larger financial institutions to the smaller ones?
Yeah, like I think the biggest difference with a larger financial institution, it's got to fit into the strategy of the overall firm. So where are they going with digital overall? So, a large FI might not just have wealth, they might have lending and payments, et cetera. So you're part of a bigger kind of strategy. But when you go to the smaller FIs, as Mike had mentioned, you're talking to the owner, maybe it's only wealth. And what they really focus with, they're not like, oh, should I do digital? How do I do it? They're not really sure what to do. And like a Bambu Go, we can do it quickly. There's no upfront cost. Other people have used it, so it's minimizing the risk. And we're only going to charge you on success, i.e. when customers fund it. And when you're a small business, that's what you want to hear. Minimize the risk. Don't be the first and get charged on success. And I think that's the key differential. That's what we've learned. When we go into enterprise, it's 7 figures, because there's a huge amount of integrations, part of strategies, a lot to do. And of course, we love, we work with Franklin and Standard Chartered, HSBC, and some other large firms. But that's the biggest difference. It's a really different methodology of thought, because they're not trying to work out all the different digital strategies and come back to you and think about it. They're like, hey, I heard of Bambu. You guys seem to know what you're doing. Other people are using you. And I can use this at, I'm not going to say no risk, but no upfront cost, simple tech integration. And we pay when customers fund us. All right, that makes sense. And I think that's the biggest difference. That's how, that's how we see it. And that's not just in the US. That's a fairly generic tech sales. I mean, Mike, as you said, you specialize in selling tech, in your previous roles to small businesses. It is more of that, take away the risk of buying the tech rather than what is the tech itself, right?
Yeah, and I would just say too that now, of course, Bambu, we offer a whole suite of products, right? But our 2 main ones are the Bambu Build, right, which is the more bespoke, customized, white glove approach, right? And usually when I'm talking to enterprise firms and I describe that, they say, yeah, that's what we want. We want our very own Betterment Wealthfront Acorns. Bambu Go, right, which is what we showed at Finovate, is our out-of-the-box, ready to go, software as a service solution, right? When I talk to the smaller businesses, usually that they say, yeah, that's what I want. I want something that's quick, easily deployable, and I can get it going in a few weeks, right? So yeah. just to build upon what Ned was saying.
Yeah, no, makes sense. It looks like we're about out of time. I'd like to end on something that's a little bit more frivolous, because obviously, we've talked about Ned, you being all over the world, having come to Finovates in multiple continents, one in multiple continents right now. And I think this is a question that a lot of people in the fintech space are asking: who's winning? Which region is winning the fintech race right now? And particularly what I'm curious about is, where do you think customers are receiving the best experience? Those end users, where are they getting the most from their banks from a digital standpoint? Is there anything you can share there?
Yeah, sure. You're right. Look, I, from the UK, grew up in the UK. I'm originally from Australia, worked in Asia a lot and doing a lot of business in America. So I have a bit of a view. India is one place that is modernizing at such a rapid pace. They love tech, and across everything from food delivery to taxis to banking to financial services, the amount of people launching startups, customers almost have an embarrassing richness of different applications to choose from, maybe even too many. But I think India is a place that customers are getting an amazing leap forward. America's been having tech innovation for quite a long time, obviously, but I would say India is the one area that's incredibly interesting. Stock trading is kind of newer there, investing is newer. They've always invested in things like physical gold, but it could all be on the phone. I would absolutely keep an eye on India. Obviously, it's a huge country. And if you look at it, Microsoft run by someone from India, same with Google. I think they have made a huge impact in tech, not just within their country. And I think, China's a lot of impact on tech within their country. But India's the one place, I think, huge opportunity, growing really quickly. So yeah, India would be the place that I think is probably doing the best from that perspective.
Excellent. No, I think that's great. It'll be interesting to see what continues to happen there. And as you say, it is a big country. There's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of talent there. So as they say, watch this space. We'll see what happens here. Well, I want to thank you both, Mike and Ned, for coming on the podcast. Congratulations again on winning Best of Show in New York in September, adding another one to the trophy cabinet there. I look forward to seeing how Bambu continues to evolve. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think I would love to look, well, Greg, we love being at Finovate. You will see us in London. I don't know if it's arrogant to say we always want to win. I think everyone should want to win. I can just think that in my brain. So we'll see us in London. Good luck to everyone else, but we're going to try and win there. We appreciate it. And I think this is a little to take out in New York the day before our presentation. I think as we'd mentioned to you before, we'd done our little presentation on stage, practice the day before. Then when all the lights went out, we kind of asked the security man, can we come back on stage? And we spent, I don't know, an hour and a half. It was Mike's idea for us to come back on stage when it was dark, and we practiced and practiced and practiced. Felt like the kicker taking kicks and goals at the end of it. So I don't know, Mike, for me, that was actually the winning was an absolute highlight, but that little bit, doing what we think the other people weren't doing by doing the extra bit to try and win it, that was my highlight.
I really enjoyed that. We had a lot of fun too, laughing, fortunately in front of an empty stage, right, practicing. But that's also, Greg, that's also where we actually came up with most of our jokes too for our presentation. We were kind of building upon each other, trying to come, just to get the audience excited and, laughing during our presentation. I think that made a big difference too. So yeah, that was quite fun, Ned.
No, totally. But now you let the secret out of the bag. Now that you're not going to have that empty space in London, you'll be fighting other people for the empty stage. We'll have to, I'm writing a note right now, add additional security just to keep a lid on everything that you guys are going to kick off.
But here's the crazy thing, Greg. I've told people this before. Like, it's you still don't see, anybody could sneak into a stadium, take kicks and goals to try and practice. I'm always fascinated that people don't. You're right. Even if you have good security, we're going to sneak in and practice because it's the only way.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. Well done. I think whatever you did last time, it obviously worked. So I certainly wouldn't dissuade you from it again. But if you're listening to this and thinking, well, maybe a couple dozen of us are going to follow in Bambu's footsteps, that might be a little bit of a different conversation. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, though. In the meantime, we can leave it here. And congratulations again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@Finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.